Recording in progress.
Hi, Andre. If you can just check if we are correct.
Chair, thank you. Chair, we correct. Shall I do the roll call, Chair?
Yeah, please do.
Dr. Kigaba,
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Ms. Mosikatsi,
Present. Good morning.
Yeah, it's like
Mr. Chance,
I'm present. Good morning, everyone.
Mr. Makutu,
it's not like that. We've got a two one. Mr. Mgutu, talk. He is present. He's going to answer his gadget.
I'll proceed, Chair. Mr. Gama,
Good morning, Secretary. Good morning to Chairman and everybody. I'm present.
Mr. Langa,
Present, thank you.
Ms. Matulewa,
Present, Chair.
Chair, there are all members present at the moment on the platform, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We share the agenda.
Chair, the agenda is on the on the screen, Chair.
Thank you very much. Move and set up.
I
Chairperson
move that we adopt the agenda.
Musikati, I second, Chair.
Thank you very much, colleagues. The agenda has been duly adopted. Thank you very much. The purpose of the meeting today is to engage the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, together with Department of Small Business Development, on their policies and programs aimed at supporting and developing township and rural economies. In particular, the committee seeks to extend these initiatives have contributed or expected to contribute industry, job creation, transformation, and broader business ownership by Black individuals, women, and youth. I would now like to take this opportunity to give our colleagues, because this is a joint meeting, an opportunity to also do their own roll call and then introduce the meeting. Thank you very much.
Chair, we have called there's only one member currently on the platform, and she has indicated the presence, Chair, Ms. Matulewa. I don't know if King, who is the secretary to the committee, if he has any other members that he could call, Chair.
That's why we're giving them that opportunity to do as we did.
No problem, Chair. Hi, King. Can you proceed, King, with that?
I think
He has left the platform, Chair. It would appear now. I don't know if there's a connectivity challenge from his side, Chair. But Mr. Nchingila has also joined the meeting, Chair, from our committee.
Okay. That's fine. So I'm not sure, can we then be advised, since this is a joint, so that by the time we proceed, we know who's supposed to be in the meeting on the other side, including the administration, because I will assume that the DTI staff is here as led by the DDG Malebu. So can we just get a sense before we proceed, just on procedure?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there are members of the Committee of the Small Business Development on the platform, Chair, as well as the Deputy Director General, Ms. Dalwa, is also on the platform, Chair. So the others still may still join us, Chair. I will speak to my colleague on the side, Chair, but we may proceed, Chair, in terms of the business for today, Chair.
So do we form a quorum? I don't want to start a meeting and then there are some technical issues. I'm just want to establish that.
Chair, we are correct, Chair. We may proceed, Chair.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, you are all welcome. Good morning. I know it's been a long time not interacting. Would now like to proceed with the agenda as set out. Are there any apologies on your side, Andre?
Chair, we have received apologies from the executives of both DTIC and the Department of Small Business Development. They are attending a meeting that has been planned well in advance, Chair. So, and we also have an apology from Ms. Schlauser-Webster, who is not available, Chair, and Mr. Thring, who will be joining us during the course of the meeting, Chair. Those are the apologies that I have, Chair. Thanks.
On small business, are there any apologies?
Not that I've been informed of, Chair. My colleague indicated their members will attend, those who can attend, Chair.
Okay. So let's just check with them so that we are fine.
Yeah, we will do so, Chair. Chair, the DTIC,
thank you, Chair. Can we proceed?
Chair, the DTIC delegation is led by Ms. Mabuchi Thompson, Chair. Chair, my colleague, Mr. Kunene, just raised his hand, Chair. Maybe he wants to address the issue of the members, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah, please do. You can proceed.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you for an opportunity. I'm King Gunene, Committee Secretary for Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development. Chairperson, I would like to register the apologies that we have received from the members of the PC. That is Honorable Dikhale, the Chairperson, Honorable Malimacha, who is the Whip, Honorable Kruger, and then Honorable Sapo, and then Honorable Bilankulu. In fact, they had some prior engagement, hence they couldn't make it to this one. Honorable Malimaji is sharing a committee with the PC on transport, so he'll be attending the transport. So those are the apologies that we have received from PC on small business. Unfortunately, Honorable Webster, she is out of the country presently. However, she also indicated and sent her apology. Those are the apologies, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Chair, Mr. Chance raised his hand.
If I could just chip in quickly.
Yes,
Thank
Chance.
you, Andre. Chair, yes, just the Z list published yesterday didn't actually have Department of Small Business Development or the committee listed as a joint meeting. So I just wanted to ask, has this changed? Because there's no provision on the Z list for this to be a joint meeting. So I'm not sure even whether they know that it's happening.
Chair, we will follow up on that matter, Chair, but it has been, we've been in communication with small business, Chair. So I will follow up with one regarding the Z listing, Chair. Thanks.
Yes, please, let's just make sure so that procedurally we are not found wanting. That's why I wanted to make sure that, because it looks like there's a huge number that is not here from the other side. I hope that you'll then make a follow-up in the next meeting. You then brief us so that there's no doubt about the status of the meeting. Okay.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will now hand
Mr.
over
Gama,
to
my apologies, Chair. Mr. Gama raised his hand.
Honorable Gama.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In the Z list, even this meeting, our committee is not listed as of yesterday. I haven't looked at today's Z list, but this meeting of our committee was not listed. Thank you, Chair.
Andrew, can you please clarify with your colleague?
I will follow up with our committee assistant chair. The meeting should have been listed, and as far as I know, it was listed.
Sorry, Chair. It is listed in this morning's, the latest one sent through by Mr. Hendricks this morning. It is listed.
Thank you, Chair.
Also, it's listed now. We're fine.
Yeah, it's listed, but not as a joint meeting. It's just listed as a DTIC committee meeting, not as a joint meeting with DSBD.
Okay. Andre, are you able to clarify?
Chair, it's a meeting that we've alerted the Department of, or invited the Department of Small Business Development, Chair. A joint meeting is we can consult any committee to attend the meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be called a joint meeting, because a joint meeting takes a different persona on, Chair. It is a meeting that any committee of Parliament can invite the other committee, Chair. And we just normally call it a joint meeting, but it's not technically a joint meeting in terms of the rules, Chair, because a joint meeting is established in terms of the rules committee. It's not a joint committee, Chair. It's just a joint meeting where two committees who deals with the issues of concurrence meet and can schedule meetings in that regard, Chair. So if we have attendance of our members and members of that committee, Chair, we may proceed, Chair. It's not extraordinary, out of order, Chair.
Yes, but I want to, because the question is raised in a meeting, I want to solicit an agreement for us to move and support that we proceed, so that it's not my decision and your decision, Andra.
Yes.
Because there's certain rules here. So if there's an omission or there's a question, we must then test it with the meeting so that the meeting procedural is correct. Because we also want to be able to make some recommendations out of this meeting. So we are not meeting for the sake of meeting. So can I just get the person who's going to move? I know that we've moved to proceed, but on this substantial point that is being debated, can I get someone who's going to say something and move? And then if there's opposing view, also can we get them express so that we can take it from there? You indicate
Mr. Chance, Chair.
Member Chance?
Thanks, Chair. I think just in terms of the procedure, because the Z list only states this as a DTIC committee meeting, the absence of DSBD committee members does not pose a problem in terms of the quorum. So I think there's no harm in going ahead with the meeting. So I propose that we continue.
Is there any contrary view or any opposing view?
Ms. Musikatsi, Chair, and Mr. Langa raised their hands, Chair.
Mr. Langa first and Ms. Musikatsi.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to you and to colleagues. Chair, I'm not sure. My understanding was that having the Department of Small Business here was to assist us deliberate and be able to make informed recommendations. So for us now to proceed with a majority of them not being here, I'm not sure what we seek to achieve. So my concern is just around that, Chairperson.
Okay, so there are now two views on the table on the status of the meeting, which is an issue that I was picking up. I think, may I suggest maybe something differently, if it's going to be acceptable to the meeting, that we allow our colleagues from small business who have joined for the purposes of sharing information to be in the meeting, and then we proceed with this as a meeting of the DTIC, and we present whatever work that has been prepared, and then we withdraw the presentation by small business, and then we then convene a joint meeting later. Probably encourage them to do the same with the presentation that they have their own meeting. Then we convene a joint, which is going to assist us to take decisions that are going to assist the informal economy from both sides, so that we don't have a procedural problem with our meeting as it stands. Because currently, I think there are some procedural issues that will arise if we proceed in the manner that is being suggested that we proceed. Is there any takers on the view that I'm trying to express to try and rescue our meeting?
Yes, I'd like to suggest a point. Again, referring to the Z list, the Z list states that it's a meeting of the Portfolio Committee on Trade, Industry and Competition to consider presentations from the DTIC and the DSBD on the township economy. It doesn't mention the participation of the DSBD Portfolio Committee. If you look at the people who have signed into the meeting, they're mainly officials from the DSBD and DTIC. So I think it would be a pity for us not to receive the presentation from the DSBD as well as the DTIC. And I don't have any objection to having a further joint meeting, but at least in the meantime, we can be updated on what the DSBD is doing in this field. And then at the next meeting, we can present what we're doing to their committee so that we can achieve the same outcome.
Okay, that still sounds like more or less the same, one and the same thing.
Okay, there is a member of the committee
Yes.
on the platform.
Apologies.
Ms. Mochikatsi raised her hand, Chair. But just
Yes.
to indicate that there are a member of the small business development on the committee, on the platform as well, Chair. Just one at the moment. Thanks.
Chairperson,
Yes, madam.
thank you and good morning to all the members in the meeting. I would like to support the last 2 views because they are more or less the same in the guidance of the chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will proceed. There's another hand I'm seeing here. Honorable Mutsikatsi, if you can just take down your hand. We'll proceed with the meeting with the understanding that it's a DTIC meeting, but the presentation from a small business will also be shared, and we will then officially communicate with them to convene a meeting so that we can look at a single approach in which we can look at instrument the informal economy in South Africa. So if that's an understanding, I will now allow the colleagues from the DTIC to proceed with their presentation, and then they will then be followed by the presentations from small business, and then we have a discussion. Thank you. Over to you, DTC and your delegation.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to all the honorable members. Chair, as you had indicated, we are presenting to you the work that we are doing on the township economy. With me are the representative from the department itself. Our presentation is going to be done by Tammy Klassen. He is our lead on regional development. The presentation will also include the Industrial Development Corporation, IDC. It will include the National Empowerment Fund, NEF, and also some of the work that is coming from the Competition Commission. So without going any further, we will and then I'll come in to answer any questions that the committee may have. Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks for the permission.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Please confirm if I am audible. Kindly. I would like to believe I'm audible, Chair. I can proceed.
You are audible, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. This comprises of the portfolio, like our DDG has mentioned, of the IDC, NEF, and Competition Commission work, including the DTIC work that is done on the township economy. Of course, we reflect on the context in our introductory remarks, and we also highlight the tools that we use for the special initiatives to develop the township economy, including the rural development in some of the municipalities and areas. And we also reflect on the role of the Competition Commission. We look at the work of the IDC in financing the township, and also the incentives that are provided by the DTIC to support the same policy transformation issues on the ground. We also look at the work that's been done by the National Empowerment Fund through their strategy and their intervention in various areas. We also look at the funding case studies that are successful on the ground and lessons learned today, and then we drive to our conclusions. The strategic tools that are used, of course, are reflected upon by the various lessons that we've had, obviously, as a country in the past years, reflecting on the GEAR, ASKISA, NDP, and all the others. Of course, the continued, stubborn growth in terms of economic development in the township is still of a huge concern, and obviously it has also led to much of the decline through various other negative waves of development, such as experiences such as your load shedding and various other unrest and things. So through the various, I think, lessons that have been derived from there, we then have developed a sort of a spatial systematic approach using the spatial industrial development strategy to try and address some of these interventions, sort of stubborn interventions in the township itself, to try and link the value chains that are happening in the activities that are happening in the township and the rural communities into the mainstream of the economy. Of course, we also recognize that the SMMEs or MSMEs themselves, they play a very critical role in terms of providing employment, and South Africa's lagging behind with regards to those stats, their contribution towards the GDP. It's still a concern, of course. We then, of course, like I've said, what is helping us here, we also note the importance of the township economy. The rationale for it stems from that a majority of our population still resides in these townships and also in the rural communities where economic activity is still in stagnation, of course. And also, we look as well at the various tools that we have used to try and formalize and also bring them into the mainstream of these. It is of concern to us that we are still growing and being recognized as the world's lead in terms of the Gini coefficient, in terms of the inequality that we experience on the ground. We have, of course, sought that the tool of spatial intervention is much more dedicated at addressing the issues that we have been struggling with as compared to our broad strokes sort of intervention. We focus on particular initiatives that will help us to try and address these issues. We use these tools of special economic zones, of course, broadly, which are export focused, and also manufacturing zones through the provisions of these special concessions that are found there, and also the industrial parks themselves, which are more sort of township focused and much more relevant to try and bring in the small businesses into the activities of manufacturing, supplying of various goods, and providing various other support skills development initiatives that could help also minimize the level of unemployment in the youth, and also the activities of women into the space of industrial development and industrialization. We also look at the support that is offered by NEF and IDC in the township economy, which tends to be focused on stimulating economic activity, creating jobs, and also making sure that they support viable businesses through their tools of intervention, and also improving the livelihoods in the township and connecting these small businesses with the larger communities, with the larger economies, which are usually found in the special economic zones, and some, of course, in the industrial parks themselves. We foster entrepreneurship through support of local business development and innovation, and they move towards the creation of an inclusive economy, towards a meaningful and a more balanced economy in the townships. The DFIs themselves, they support in terms of expertise and networks, in access to capital as well, providing different products, instruments, and processes, and incentives, of course, so that a much broader capital can also be obtained in the township and the rural enterprises. We also see a very active role of IDC through their social and solidarity economy interventions there that enables the ecosystem of development to support as well these community-based economic initiatives and cooperative enterprises as well. We also see the innovation and solution strategies that are provided across through various tools such as the strategic infrastructure projects and then MSMEs Connect, where there's digital transformation, digital hubs being upgraded and being built so that the communities of ICT players could also find their traction in playing in the space of digitization. Partnership and facilitation, creating strategic partnerships with provinces. An example in the Gauteng Township Economy Partnership Fund, which leverages public fund and private sector investment for the support of the small businesses. We now focus on on looking at the role that the Competition Commission is playing. It was established, of course, in 1998, Competition Act, according to Competition Act 89. And its main role, of course, it is to make sure that it investigates complaints and assess measures, evaluates and exemptions applications. It also undertakes market inquiries and advocacy in order to achieve equity and efficiency in the South African economy. There are tools, of course, that are core to their interventions, especially also helping in the township economy. It's enforcement and mergers and acquisitions, advocacy, and market inquiry. We will also see how they have also tried to improve the lives of the township and rural economies or communities by opening doors for businesses in these areas, that they've been more deliberate in looking at improving the outcomes of the rural economy through the research that they've been doing through various studies in some of the sectors, so that enforcement action can also take place. Through one of their online intermediary market inquiry, they have found that there is a lack of inclusion of Black-owned businesses, many from the township and rural areas, on online marketplaces. There have been remedies, of course, in food deliveries, opening up opportunities for delivery services to enable those small businesses to access the national value chains businesses. in the township restaurant, feed discounts and promotional discounts, ad credits, and onboarding assistance have resulted in 40 million to date, having helped to drive the expansion of those small businesses. In the e-commerce Take a Lot accelerated program has remedied and benefit more than 800 Black-owned businesses to get support so that they can be on board and also take place in the market in the digital platform that is provided in the e-commerce as well. Remedies in online travel have also acquired Booking.com to onboard and promote accommodation and travel services in Black rural and community and rural communities, of course. In their measure and control portfolio or toolbox, they have recently added about some homes to be passed in lower income areas, including lowest income township, to meet the requirements of connecting those targets through a measure between Vodacom and Maziv, of course, through that settlement. Their research in their research portfolio, they aim to enable enforcement that can grow business and better serve consumers. In their rural and business survey, they have also identified barriers to expansion of township and rural, including both the market access barriers, that is access to shelf space, access to formal retail space, and exclusive distribution and regulatory barriers in terms of zoning. Most of these areas you would go when you go in an ordinary shelf space in some of these big supermarkets, you do see how that seclusion and that sort of barrier is being done so that, access to some of the small businesses, manufacturers are restricted. So they've tried to address that and identify those as key barriers, which of course makes us to understand more deeper the things that are in the township that needs to be addressed through their strategy. We then look at the examples that we have done in terms of intervening in the townships. These are the slide here represents the many townships that we have funded around the country in all the 9 provinces, of course. Some of these are rural mostly, some are townships, but urban. We take note, of course, that most of our interventions in these areas in the provinces, most of these districts, most of these municipalities are largely rural. And so you've got a little bit of those activities happening in the sort of urban areas, and hence the importance of linking and building value chains that also find expression in these bigger companies so that they can also obtain value as well. We look at the industries that we support as well. They are quite vast and also not limited to these. There are some that in terms of the automotives, the aftercare services that are provided by many of the sometimes informal, but many are now going formal in the industrial spaces or the formalized industrial nodes around the townships and in the periphery of the rural communities as well. Agro-processing still is a key driver in most of the rural spaces in bringing most of the women and the communities to sustain them through the value chain. So infrastructure, construction there also plays a very important role, especially as well when you look at the issue of the some of the things that they do in clothing and textile. Some of the women that are doing many of the clothing and textile apparels, you find them located in sort of rural communities with some of the sheds where they work, and they've got machinery, and there are people that come and take their goods into the broader city and urban markets to help them. The steel and fabrication of metal products and is also one of the key drivers when we look at the span activities happening in both the industrial spaces and in and outside of the industrial spaces that are demarcated for that. So the issue for us is we need to provide more of the sustainable infrastructure as a platform for all these to formalize their businesses and also gain more client and also be compliant with many of the regulations that are required. The retail space as well is where we play. We play quite a very deep role in terms of making sure that not only the small businesses, but the small products that are done by the various small businesses, they find their way into the flow or shop space as well, into the bigger markets, such as your clicks. There are those kind of initiatives where now even SPAR is taking some of the products and considering in that through the agro-processing scheme that the DTIC and various other institutions and agencies also support are providing. In the mining and mineral beneficiation, there is still quite a lot of the small players there that are playing a role in some of the industrial spaces, industrial parks as well, although not en masse. But most of these activities are outside the machinery and equipment. There are also initiatives that we are working with or on with various municipalities and their agencies in making sure that we do supply and give a platform for many of the skills-based and tool-making initiatives that could help us to bring most of these youth into some skill, into some innovation and creative spaces, so that it can grow in terms of innovating new ways of doing businesses, new ways of doing many other products. So those are finding their traction in these industrial spaces as well. The industrial Black Industrialist funding over the 2 years within the DTIC and IDC and NEF through that syndicated funding, 36 of these Black industrialists have been supported, which are located in and around the township and rural communities to a tune of about 885 million rands, and they've contributed to sustain about 3,000 jobs and new jobs, 2,700 of those jobs. There are also some of the incentives which have played a very critical role within the DTIC in making sure that the SMMEs are supported. 56% of those were women and women-owned and youth-owned, and they find themselves located in these townships and the rural spaces, of course. Almost 900 million of those was dispersed into 80 entities. And these contributed significantly to sustaining and also creating new jobs in that 2-year period. Under the critical infrastructure program, this is where we focus mostly on providing and helping the municipalities to provide a platform for infrastructure, for investment opportunities for those. So we do provide quite a lot of support for infrastructure development to assist investments, not only inside the industrial parks themselves, but also outside of the parks where there are critical public good services that ought to be provided by the municipalities. So we do help and go co-funding with those municipalities, assist where there are lagging gaps there. 15 of these industrial parks, which have gone through various phases. I think it's about 26 phases that have undergone through some of these, haven't gone phase 1 and phase 2 of these. 15 of these parks have been supported since 2015-2016 financial year. And of course, they've helped currently an estimated 64,000 people are employed in those industrial parks where the intervention has been made. We are, of course, working towards making sure that a broader access to some of these parks through a partnership with, example, small businesses, where we co-fund some of the elements which the DTIC, if it funds the bulk infrastructure and some of the things, municipality provide lands and fund some of the things. Also, small business does come into play and fund some of the skills. Artisan centers, they're putting the machinery so that we can be able to provide a sustainable ecosystem for that industrial space where intervention is made in order to enable businesses to run efficiently. IDC funding methodologies and their impact, of course, they have got 5 pathways, namely financing of projects and businesses that are located in and around the township, and the social impact funding, which I referred to earlier, and also they, working through non-banking intermediaries, targeting townships and youth so that they can provide expertise and easy access to some of these support mechanisms of government, and also facilitating partnerships as the Township Economy Partnership in Gauteng, of course, where there's 400 million fund which was created and is managed by the IDC. And of course, we have also got the crisis funding, which also helped a great deal. We would look at the past experiences where there was unrest, and not only unrest, but also during the flooding times and any other, sometimes, I think, unpalatable, occurrences that would happen in some of these townships. There is support that's being given to businesses, energy, resilience, drive also to make sure that business do not suffer when there's issues of load shedding. Of course, it needs to be noted that even though in some of the sort of urban areas outside of the townships, these townships we're referring to, there's no load shedding, but majority of these townships still continue to be I think disadvantaged by the numerous activities. Sometimes it's unrest, sometimes it's illegal connections, and affecting, of course, supply of these. And these inadvertently would affect these small businesses. So there is a funding and support and a dedicated effort to understand those kind of things. Through the Township Economy Fund, we have seen some good examples that IDC have done. The impact there, they've approved about 2,054 of these small enterprises there. Black-owned enterprises were supported to about 550 million rands, and approval of women-owned businesses, 244 million rands, and also youth-owned businesses also were supported. In total, this led to a creation of about 11,000 over the broad spectrum, 11,794 jobs, and over the broad spectrum of sectors that are currently in Gauteng. The Township Energy Resilience Fund, as I have mentioned, some of the objective and intention of that fund is to make sure that, of course, we address the issue that negatively impacts the small business owners that are operating in the township. And many of them still continue to experience these, but through the intervention that's been demonstrated by this fund, at least there is some solution that we have now and lessons that we're drawing, and we're looking at even doing much more dedicated, what we call township energy hubs, through collaboration with various municipalities. There is an intention that a sort of sustainable energy mix should be provided to some of these communities through a dedicated portal that could be located in some of the industrial parks. This is an initiative that's also being pursued and being developed in some of the areas in Gauteng and also in KZN to try and address the issue of energy. So far, the impact of the fund is being rolled out by IDC, has approved about 200 million to 31 strategic through strategic implementing partners. that have assisted these SMMEs with the kind of jobs that are mentioned there. The other fund, of course, the fund in terms of the flood has also helped quite a great deal in arresting some of the negative, outcome that could be felt by these businesses. 86 million has been dispersed directly to about 15, through direct, 86.3 million to 7 strategic implementing partners have been invested into these micro enterprises, and 15 direct investments have also been obtained there in saving and also creating the jobs that are also mentioned there. During the township unrest as well, we have seen how strategic the fund has been in providing solution and making sure that we do not experience even much more calamities in terms of the mortalities of those businesses. Having some of them were burnt down, some of them were looted, and some of the equipment was actually ravaged by criminal elements, etc. But the approval of 150 million have seen to save and also create 7,210 jobs there in those areas. Most of these areas, you would remember, it was around Gauteng and also in KZN as well. IDC, through its social and solidarity funding, also they've helped greatly in the past 5 years, 23 of the township initiatives to the value of 103 million rands, creating 922 jobs and also impacting the beneficiaries to a number of about 8,519 have been helped. Through the NEF funding, of course, which focuses on new and growth industries, technologies, technology, renewable energy, waste management, and the e-based platforms, to both urban and rural development. They also support the last mile delivery services and logistics framework. An example, they take a load, the 60 minutes, the checkers, last mile delivery services to bring them on board, the Uber Food and Uber Connect and all those platforms. They also assist greatly in those partnership with provincial and local government, as well with the agencies that are allocated there. So there is quite a great coordination with other agencies that are in the various provinces working with the NEF to bring solutions to various sectors of the economy through the infrastructure and facilitation and unlocking many of the barriers that are experienced there. And the use of technology for accessibility and scaling up of these portals to broaden the activities as well. I think this is also very much important in terms of ensuring that we bring the number of the unemployed youth into, we bring it down a little bit through the ICT technology. So an active role by the state and its agencies in addressing the infrastructure concerning digitization is very important in this case. This is a summary of the strategic objectives, the outputs of the programs has been run by NEF in the past 5 years. It demonstrates the number of jobs that have been obtained there and the ability to create, of course, investment into these rural spaces there. You would see that in the area of priority sectors, there's quite a significant amount of jobs that have been created there, about 13,653 in the priority sectors, and the projected number, of course, to 2029 is targeted to be 80,000 jobs. But currently, of course, capital investment of 1.01 billion rands in job creating projects to these targeted sectors has also been achieved. And also the area facilitation of the value chain investment, and aggregation of economies of scale. We've seen that actively with NEF providing that, especially in the retail business, in the agriculture or agro-processing value chains, in aggregating and making sure that the various small players become active in the various value chains and also contribute significantly, and thus, of course, gain their own support. Invest in the projects in high socio-economic impact. We have seen 500 million invested in job-creating projects in targeted sectors as well. We have also seen the aggregation of 3 projects. Some of them are also contained in the case studies, where you will see how the role and the impact of what they are saying here they've done. There's also a 500 million rands fund through the intervention for the spaza shop, which was also done in partnership with small business, which is currently managed by NEF and also SITFA jointly, in order that they disperse and make a decisive intervention on the challenges around making sure that the sustainability and growth, of course, of these small retail spaces in the township. And also we do see a dedicated partnership, which is like a case study. The NEF has invested, or rather the BB Quick Shop Stop Shop has invested about 36. This also is a very good case of one of the aggregation models that they have used. And also the Husiami small-scale farmer grower model also represents an example of that, way about 60 small black scale scale farmers are also aggregating their produce and also ensuring that they've got a visible footprint in the market space and market access, also making sure that in issues of compliance and regulatory and standardization is also adhered to, through that agglomerated approach. This, of course, is what the Spaza Shop Fund constitutes of. This slide represents what is currently out there, and many of these the small spazas are currently applying, and there's a long list that is also applied to both SITFA and also NEF through the support of the fund that was mentioned. Here, of course, it just represents that kind of applications, the number of applications that have been received, and also primarily the lead there being from KZN and also Gauteng. I think the rest of the other provinces are quite lagging behind, but you would see that KZN, there's quite an active participation, I think, support through the various structures that are existing there. The municipalities, they're supporting and working with the various small agencies in order to bring them on board, to bring support and assist them. Some of these provinces still need to be capacitated, especially through their LED offices and their agencies, so that they can also bring these services to the small spazas or small retail owners. This just represents here the pipeline that NEF has, of course, been involved in terms of supporting of these spazas. Sorry, it's not moving. Sorry, I don't know why okay, sorry about that. The types of funding, yeah, we talk of just, I'm not going to go through these honorable chair and honorable members, but these just represents the case studies that have been done by the IDC in various areas. In Gauteng, Vosloorus, we see how they've also funded and supported Black-owned women, saved 11 jobs through the Build Back Better program. where the machinery included, the support included machinery and upgrading of specifications of various utensils there as well. We also see the Wi-Fi case study, which also builds the platform into digitization, which is a company in Mpumalanga and Northwest with over 20,000 active users across the 3 provinces. That also includes Free State as well, where they were supported by a grant of about 700,000. These also play a very critical role in making sure that the socio-economic status of these communities comes to that equitable level where they are able to also have access to some of the information which is otherwise critical, whether it's sometimes, a youth that wants to go and look for work, wants to do their CVs, and wants to access certain information to do some of the creative things. These things and these platforms, this infrastructure play a very critical role towards assisting the communities on those elements. And we also see the Budenko Business Enterprise as well, which was based in Garsibande. It was also funded through the Energy Resilience Fund as well. It demonstrates as well ability to having created 41 jobs, saved 41 jobs and created about 4 of the jobs. It was funded by the IDC's fund also to improve the energy systems in that place. Of course, this slide here just show the approval that's been done so far by the NEF and the disbursements that has been done towards the rural and from the rural and township fund. And also here we see the partnership and also the sectors which have predominantly been supported in terms of locations and area. You would see that, of course, townships, because they are the most populous nodes of our country, they continue to dominate in accessing some of these. But we do see, I think, over this year in particular, a large drive for the rural economy to now is starting to pick up. Very many applications are coming from there, providing different things from energy support, whether through solar and various, but also building of the infrastructure, also agro-processing that also lead there. So I'm sure that in the coming months, years, we will see a slight change because of these. These are examples that I referred to, which are case of aggregators as being done and conducted by the NEF as well. Empowering of small women. This is another example here where township development, a Black industrialist here, and based in the Eastern Cape, being responsible for pineapple production, which used to be a very thriving industry in one of the years. In some of the areas in the Eastern Cape used to produce one of the sweetest and best, and they had one of the biggest, which was exporting, in fact, juice and some of these products. I think it shows that if dedication and collaborated support is put back into some of these strategic areas, we can still see the results again, ticking up the box of driving away poverty and addressing the issue of unemployment, and of course a lack of employment in the rural communities. We do see quite active examples in the township as well that were supported through the various initiatives by the NEF, such as the wildfire trading, which operates in Alexander, affected after the issues of unrest as well. But we do see as well women coming into the fore, like the Wine Foods that deals primarily with processing chicken and individually processed and frozen chicken, and NEF supported them to about 18 million rands in terms of replacing of their equipment and stock. And the resilience, it's quite admirable in some of these enterprises. So there is an active spirit of entrepreneurship in the township. We do see quite a lot of other, innovative, sort of initiatives coming from the rural, rural-urban townships as well, like the wildfire one, which is based in the Northern Cape. It's largely, of course, for the wildlife management. Of course, it ties in well into ticking on those opportunities around tourism, around a provision of heritage, culture, unique proposition in tourism as well. So these have been funded to about 8.5 million rands and created, and it's 100% owned by a Black-owned, which is another example of how these communities are seeking to find solution for their own communities in terms of transforming them and working to bring their own solution that they understand based on their context. This also, the Manini holding is another example of where NEF has intervened, given them 5 million rands and total jobs of 70 jobs being provided. They are currently growing citrus in 55 hectares of plantations in the area of Marble, in the area of Marble Hall in Limpopo. We also see there some of those that were funded through the Black Industries Program by the DTIC, of course, in partnership with your NEF and the IDC model of syndicated funding, but we see them also coming up with very unique and specialized forms of utensils, plastic making. I think also it plays into the role of trying to make sure that circular economy in terms of using some of these products, reusing them and putting them into good use, minimizing it. That's part of the waste economy avenue space as well. We also see a very similar example here around the waste economy, plastic making, recycling of the plastics. And this industry need us to say as well that it's one of the, latent industries, especially very conducive for the township. If you look at the amount of waste that is there, and some of the initiatives such as the buyback centers, others are now beginning to process that and Edu-Valley washing those and supplying the industries where various sort of utensils and various plastic formations that are needed by the bigger industries are then taken and sent to. We also see there in the industry of wood and paper and pulp as well, quite a number of companies, small companies that are now entering that space. This was also supported as one of the Black industrialists. It is responsible for employment of about 410 jobs as well. It is also based in Gauteng. We also see another new enterprise as well in the area of Western Cape in Philippi, also which was supported through the Black Industrialist program as well. We see another one which is in the area of agriculture, which is agro-processing or meat production, to be specific, also supported through that program of the Black Industrialists as well, employing both women and largely women and also young men there in the area of the sector of meat production, agriculture. We do also see another meat, production company there. That's also based. It's rather it's not a meat. This one is responsible for doing the plastic moldings that are needed by various industries, supplying in the chemical and also supporting in the automotive. This is one of the many specialized, but a few of these are owned by Black people there. And there's a lot of opportunities there that we have seen in the industrial spaces. In almost all the industrial spaces, there's one or two of these small new companies that have been supported by the DTIC that are coming. They are doing plastic molding and also feeding into the white goods sector. In summary and in conclusion, we through this presentation, we address gaps in cross-cutting, I think, constraints in terms of limited access to financing. We have seen that through the programs of us having to be specific about targeted areas in the spatial, according to the spatial context, and using the strategy of the platforms in SEZ, other industrial nodes that are state-owned, and also working with the private and also in the industrial spaces, we are able now to see through that collaborative work that we are addressing the issues of weak infrastructure and limited access to critical platforms of trade that would otherwise make these to be in the correct standards. We also are addressing the issue, I think, of financing by making sure that there is syndicated financing. When we finance an entity, there's not only that it needs finance, but it also needs a conducive ecosystem that is provided for through the many various tools that we mentioned here. There's also the issue of social cohesion and addressing the issue of weak governance, which continue to plague some of these areas through the, I think, underperformance of some of the municipalities, but they are dedicated programs where we are now working in strengthening those through the agencies or with the agencies, bringing through the various skills from various departments as well. Poor security is still a concern in many areas, but I need to say that there is a very dedicated joint contribution and role that's played also by the private in addressing this. We have seen in the industrial spaces a very good example, or one of the industrial spaces which used to be, I think, a sore eye in terms of its the outlook and how it has been destroyed in the Garankuwa area. There's now a turnaround in that industrial park, and hopefully in one of the good days, we'll take you there to show a good example of how the private and the community have now addressed even the issue of pillaging and destroying the electric connections there have been addressed. It's just one example of how security and safety, if community and the private and together with the agencies of the state work together can be addressed. And it's a very good example there. There's the issue of inadequate skills, that is still a concern, but through partnership that we are starting as entities and also linking up with some of the institutions and some of these country-based support, such as the ones we get from Japan, China as well, providing some of the skill space. There's a number of people in some of the municipalities that have also been taken to other courses, 6 months and 3 months courses to address issues of different skills of industrialization. And they come back to some of their municipalities to try and help us to industrialize, and also working with the CETAs and the TVET colleges as well. In some of these industrial parks, there's a linkage between these TVET colleges and what's happening in the industrial park. And through the artisanal and incubators and accelerators, we seek to host them and make sure that that provision of skills is addressed for the youth and the many other opportunities for women and other sectors of the community. Thank you, Chair and honorable members, for your time.
Colleagues, thank you very much for the presentation. Andre, you will have to assist me here. The chairperson is engaged in something else for a brief while. So he has asked me to just hold the fort for that while until he returns. We've received this presentation. Thank you very much. What are we supposed to receive another presentation before we get into the
Correct.
discussion?
Dr. Gigaba, we are scheduled to receive a presentation from Small Business Development led by Ms. Dalwa, the DDG. So we can, I would propose that we take both, as depending on the committee.
I would suggest we take both, and so that we can have a composite discussion. It will help us to have a full picture of what we are discussing. Thank you very much. You may proceed, colleague from Miss
Dalwa.
Miss Delwa, yes.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to you and the honorable members on the platform. Can I just check that the presentation is visible?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much, Chair. Chair, I think we are just going to appreciate the opportunity to brief the Portfolio Committee. Of course, as the department, we have the mandate to lead and coordinate an integrated approach to the promotion and development of entrepreneurship in the country, including the support to MSMEs and cooperatives, and ensuring that there is a legislative and policy environment to support their growth. This is the outline of the presentation. We are going to focus on the policy instruments that the department has, and then also, as in number 8, then go into the DSBD portfolio programs that we fund and support. Chairperson, let me not go into the introduction. I think we know the purpose of why we are here is to really show to the Portfolio Committee some of our policy instruments to enable township and rural businesses. For the purpose of the presentation, we are going to focus on the following policy documents, of course, guided by the National Integrated Small Enterprise Development Master Plan, which one of the pillars is around development of policy and legislation to enable the MSME ecosystem. In terms of the micro and small medium business cooperatives funding policy, it's the MSME and cooperatives funding policy, which was gazetted in February 2025. The purpose of the policy is really to deepen access to finance and reduce the level of concentration or monopolies in certain sectors, to facilitate transformation in ownership patterns, but to also ensure access of finance in both formal and informal sectors by promoting education around finance education for small enterprises, especially in the unserved and underserved areas such as townships and rural areas. The policy proposes subsidized lending programs to achieve greater financial inclusion, especially for youth and women and persons living with disabilities, with the particular focus on township and rural as well. It also speaks about deepening access to finance in unserved and underserved markets, segments, including township and rural areas. The policy really advocates for establishing capacitation and capitalization of a new network of retail intermediaries, which is microfinance institutions, to service this segment. And lastly, the policy recommends enhanced financial literacy and business management skills to ensure or improve the creditworthiness of MSMEs and their ability to access finance. The policy has about 17 recommendations, which the department is overseeing the implementation thereof. The next policy is the Township and Rural Economy Development and Revitalization Policy. I must indicate this policy is currently being developed by the department. However, there are a number of township and rural economy programs that the department has already been implementing for quite a while. So this policy is being informed by the experiences that we would have acquired in the implementation. The problem statement or the basis of the policy, I think, speaks to some of the challenges that the DTIC colleague referred to. I think if you look at the last slide, I think it was slide 54, which was talking about the challenges. It's almost a mirror of this in terms of what we say are the challenges in the townships. It's insufficient in inadequate infrastructure, enterprises in townships and rural areas remaining largely financially excluded, shortage of skills and no access to markets, high levels of unemployment giving rise to crime and crime syndicates, and really challenges prohibiting investment opportunities and therefore perpetuating a cycle of poverty and unemployment in the rural and township areas. So the vision of the policy is to really foster development of sustainable township and rural entrepreneurs and small enterprises through needs-based skills development. We are putting emphasis on incubation and business development support, which will ensure, therefore, that the type of entrepreneurs that we support are funding ready and therefore they can run sustainable businesses. We are also in this policy hoping to support the development of a vibrant and thriving township and rural economies that can attract investment and be fully integrated into the mainstream economy. And so here we are really also focusing on some of the basic necessities for running businesses in townships is around access to basic services like your water, your electricity, as well as internet connectivity, as well as appropriate infrastructure and policing or safety for businesses in townships. The policy also aims to guide a well-coordinated and collective ecosystem approach to enterprise development in the township and rural areas. We're hoping really to avoid duplication and facilitate complementarity and comprehensive support by maximizing the resources that are currently there in the ecosystem. We're hoping also to increase access to economic and market opportunities for small enterprises by enabling their participation and facilitating access to job opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities. The fifth is enabling access and creating appropriate funding instruments. I think in the funding policy slide, I've already spoken to this. And lastly, reducing the regulatory burdens and improving business processes. I'm not going to go through this, Chairperson, except to say that the policy lists a number of key challenges that are currently facing township and rural enterprises or entrepreneurs. And so this is the 8 areas of eight areas of interventions that we have identified in the short and medium term to deal with some of the problems. I think I've spoken to the first, which is addressing skills shortage through needs-based incubation and business development support, rolling out appropriate funding and funding instruments, revise and create an enabling regulatory environment. And here I must indicate, Chairperson, that we are currently amending the Business Act which governs the licensing of businesses, with the hope that that amendment also enables better regulation in that space and simplifying some of the business licensing processes. We have recently also gotten approval of the National Business Licensing Policy by Cabinet, which also creates policy certainty in this space. The next area is around coordinating effective public and policing services. I think I spoke to this, Chair. Upgrading infrastructure as well, coordinating across government and creating enablers for township and rural innovation through technology and infrastructure. And lastly, establishing stronger market access linkages within the township. When you look to the further columns, we are then making very specific tag outputs in terms of from first to third year after the policy has been approved, as well as 2 years to 3 years. And we are really hoping that these interventions are going to then enable a much more vibrant economy. The next policy document, or rather a strategy, is what we call the National Informal Business Upliftment Strategy, NIBUS, which was developed as a response to a gap in the ecosystem around the development of informal businesses. The NIBUS strategy really is about creating an environment that will enhance enterprise development and support, and also coordinate intergovernmental and stakeholder relations to broaden participation of South Africa's business, informal business sector. So I think if I can move to the next slide, maybe just to talk about the approach. We have what we call the Vuvuzela graduation model, and this model really outlines the continuum of NIBUS, reflecting how we plan to support entrepreneurs from the informal all the way up to the medium-sized businesses. So we support them at the different stages as they graduate, and as a result, some of our programs are also designed in the way to respond to where each entrepreneur is at their stage of graduating to growing their businesses. So in terms of the developmental approach to informal and micro businesses, we have we define how the businesses are at the different stage and some of the tax responsibilities that they have, speaking really to the formalization of businesses and the support that we give in that instance. Then I can move then to the next policy instrument, which is an MSME focused localization policy. Through this policy, we aim to build a manufacturing capacity of small enterprises. Also, we coordinate import replacement plan. We establish a route to market framework for small enterprises that are manufacturing products, and then we provide support to them to prepare towards exporting and export market penetration. We also service localization to allow for the development of skills, and then also support them in adopting innovation and digitization in the manufacturing, and also establish a funding framework. We also have an international relations strategy or policy framework. I think what is key here is the first lever, which is really around expanding, enabling our MSMEs, including those in the township, to expand their footprint in the international market using the various schemes that are in place. I'm going to move now to talk to the programs that are informed by the policy instruments that I've referred to. The first one is the Informal and Micro Enterprise Development Program, which is what we call the IMEDP. The IMEDP is a 100% grant up to the value of about 15,000 for acquisition of basic equipment and tools. The basic qualifying criteria for this program is that the entrepreneur must at least have been trading for 3 months. It must be Black-owned and informal micro-enterprise, and they must produce a South African ID for both the owner and the employees. This is our most basic support to the most basic informal business when you look at the Vuvuzela model that I spoke to. From 2021 to 2024, in this program, we have disbursed close to 98 million support to MSMEs. The next program is Asset Assist. The Asset Assist program is also a grant to the value of 250,000. Now, this is supporting much more developed and formalized businesses. They must be 100% owned by South Africans, and they must be in possession of CIPC documentation, but sole proprietors also qualify for this assistance. The business must have existed for more than a year, and they must furnish certain documents, including financial statements and 6 months banking statements. Or if a business has been trading for less than a year, they are supposed to then furnish banking statements for that period. They must be employing no less than 90% South Africans and must be tax compliant. To date, we have approved to a total of 283 million to support entrepreneurs there. The next one is the Cooperatives Development Support Program. This program supports cooperatives in different categories. From category A, we are looking at funding cooperatives to the value of 1.5 million. And then category B, cooperatives up to 5 million, which is secondary or cluster cooperatives. The requirements also are provided. I'm not going to go through them, but safe to say that we do expect them to have a certain level of formalization and compliance with SARS, CIPC, FICA, but also their financials. To date, we have approved to an amount of about 98 million as well, which supports the cooperatives. The next program is the Township and Rural Economy Program, which is a program that provides blended finance to MSMEs up to the value of 1 million. We have recently gotten approval to increase that to about 3 million, which is what we will be implementing. And this is based on the lessons we have learned from implementing this program, that there were a number of businesses owned in the township that were needing more than 1 million, but that if you look at the pipeline, would qualify for a higher figure. So we did make a case for the increase, which has been approved. I think I'm going to speak more about the disbursements on this when I speak in a later slide on TREP. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to talk to the Spaza Shop program. I'm going to just reflect that the fund that our colleague from DTIC was talking to is the second iteration of the Spaza Shop Fund. This slide here is speaking to the initial fund, which was implemented by DSBD from 2020 to 2024, which saw a disbursement to Spaza Shops to the value of about 84 million for that period. I'm not going to go into this slide. This is the second iteration of the fund. The colleague already presented on that, safe to say that it is a joint initiative between the DTIC and the DSBD through NEF and SEDFA. And the information that has been provided on the Spaza Shop Fund, I don't have to repeat, Chair, because it was covered extensively. We also have the General Dealer Support Program, which is designed to assist small and local retailers. It offers targeted support to general dealers. It includes corner stores, mini markets, and other small-scale retailers. The program was designed to resuscitate the general dealers that were operating in townships and rural areas. And here we support by refurbishing existing derelict buildings, branding them and turning them into modern general dealers. Owners are also provided with training and mentorship, ensuring that the businesses become profitable and sustainable. I've spoken to the TREP, but I just wanted here to focus on the disbursement. Since 2020, in terms of TREP, we have approved loans to the value of about 1.35 billion and disbursed about 1.78 billion, of which 19,580 were youth-owned to the value of 466 million. And this total disbursement has been to about 226 eligible MSMEs, in turn creating or sustaining about 229,344 jobs. The Small Enterprise Manufacturing Support is a program that speaks to the localization policy that I referred to earlier. And it's really about promoting the localization in targeted sectors. It provides small manufacturers with support to buy tools, and it assists in growing the manufacturing employment targets and also change in the structure of manufacturing to high-tech manufacturing. From July 2020 to 2024, SEDFA approved loans to the value of about 964 million and disbursed about 671 million, 111 million to 18 youth-owned businesses, and the total disbursement to about 110 MSMEs. These businesses have in turn helped to create and sustain about 4,704 jobs. The next program is a Youth Challenge Fund, which was aimed as a response to youth unemployment as a major challenge, and was developed to address the funding gap in the market for startup youth-owned enterprises, as there were not enough instruments at the time to deal with youth startup failure rate. Since its inception in 2021, SEDFA has approved loans to the value of 274 million and disbursed 189 million to 61 eligible youth entrepreneurs. These businesses in turn have helped create and sustain about 1,211 jobs. I've spoken to the Asset Assist program here. I think here we are just providing more information. I've also spoken to the IMEDP program and the cooperatives and support program. I'm now going to come to the business development services, which is really a whole range of support services that we give to MSMEs to grow and become competitive. We help them with business planning and strategy, financial management, marketing and market access, training and skills development, as well as compliance and regulatory guidance. Here, we're helping them to understand and meet the regulatory requirements of the sector that they are getting into. We also here deal with your health and safety training, but also tax and legal compliance training is provided. Here we have, from the funding policy that I presented earlier, a proposal of a fund of funds which seeks to really address market failures caused by the credit market inefficiencies that has led to the increasing in the finance gap. The fund of funds was envisaged to be in collaboration with the public and private sector, and its aim is to mobilize funding and crowding investment for small businesses with a view for credit rationing affecting MSMEs and cooperatives. The fund was supposed to provide risk-based capital based on potential development impact to SMMEs, prioritizing startups, but not excluding businesses in other phases of business. The fund also designed to target women, youth, and persons with disability. When this policy was presented to Cabinet, it coincided with a presentation by DTIC on the Transformation Fund, and the decision was then taken that we collaborate on this fund of funds within the Transformation Fund work that the DTIC has been doing. So this is a project. The Transformation Fund is a joint fund initiative by the DSBD and the DTIC, and we are collaborating in developing the concept and also the designing the fund. Then we have Amavulindlela Fund, which is designed specifically for persons with disabilities to enter the mainstream economy. We start from 50,000 all the way up to 15 million for them, whether they are a medium-sized business, including close cooperation and companies. Some of the requirements for Amavulindlela is for the entrepreneur to be operationally involved in the running of the business, and the funding we are financing financing proposals that really have financial sustainability and technical feasibility. Inyamazane funding scheme is also a scheme that has been developed for military veterans, also starting from 50,000 all the way up to 15 million. To qualify, of course, you must be a verified military veteran, but also here we are funding financially sustainable and technically feasible businesses. There are a number of challenges we have with accessing some of our funds. I'm not going to go in through this, except to indicate that we do have still experience very poorly packaged applications, weak business plans, and limited financial understanding, which are things we are now dealing with through our business development support when we see that applications to our programs are having this type of challenges. I'm just going to briefly go through the facts that through our international markets as well, we do provide support to women-owned enterprises, especially to access competitive global markets through the She Trades program, but also through our multilateral and bilateral, and as well as exporter development schemes. We do support township-based entrepreneurs and enterprises. On market linkage program, we have created a route to market as part of implementing the localization framework. We have an annual target of linking MSME products to domestic markets. Even though this takes time, we do complement this work by conducting market expansion workshops which are coordinated with private sector players as well as local municipalities. We make sure in our workshops to target both township and rural enterprises, so that even there, the private sector players could also present market opportunities to entrepreneurs who are in the township and rural areas. I'm not going to go through this. It's just the domestic market access process flow. We also have the industrial clusters where it's about bringing together and interest groups to focus on a particular industry, to focus on problems and identifying new markets, and also improving skills coming into the system. We use the triple helix approach, where entities come together at a specific geographic area or sector to enhance the competitiveness and innovation in that space. We have, as an example, the Gauteng cluster, automotive cluster, where we work with the different entities. We recently have a report that was commissioned by the ILO looking at how in particular, those enterprises based in townships and rural areas could be linked to private sector value chains. There are a number of problems there. However, we do plan to target the interventions that respond to some of the problems that have been identified as a way of implementing the cluster model. We have also the Business Infrastructure Support Program, which was previously known as the Shared Economic Infrastructure Program. This program supports infrastructure needs through product markets. We also support container model structures, industrial hubs. We also assist in renovating of existing or dilapidated buildings owned by government and erecting new buildings using steel fabrication for potential informal and operational entrepreneurs. The program also incorporates providing tools, equipment, machinery, and alternative energy solutions. The program has been redesigned really to be positioned as a value chain enabler, providing MSMEs with not just premises, but all other necessary equipment that they need to operate in those product markets. Hence, the introduction of the equipment and energy solution program into the program. In terms of that, I think we have funding up to the value of up to 23 million for this fund. To date, through the SAFE program, we were able to support about 17 projects, 10 of which were completed and launched to the value of about 104 million. They span multiple provinces, including renovation of existing infrastructure and constructing new ones. In the Eastern Cape, we have 2. We refurbished the KwaNtozonke market and renovated the Chris Hani Pack House. In KZN, we have 2 as well. We have the Intloko Meat Sellers facility in Guamashu at the train station. And then we also did the Bergville Light Industrial Hub. In Free State, we have the Mangaung SMME Hub. And in Gauteng, we had the renovation and expansion of the Spartan Industrial Manufacturing Supplier Park and the Kgosi Maubane Irrigation. And then in Mpumalanga, we did support the building of an avocado oil processing facility. These are just examples. This is the market that we supported in Umtata, KwaNtozonke. This is before, and what I showed is the after our intervention. The other 2 slides really is about our regional presence through SEDFA across the different provinces. This comes to the end of the presentation, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, co-chairperson who assisted me. I had a bit of an interview. Thank you very much for these two presentations, and I'm sure members are now ready to engage on the two presentations. Can we now take hands?
Mr. Langa, Chair?
Yes, I want to point at least 3-4 hands. Mr. Langa, the next 2 hands.
Mr. Chance, Mr. Nchingila?
Okay, in that order.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Maybe let me first welcome the presentations by both departments, the DTIC and the DSBD. I have a few questions of clarity here that I think some will may require a response by both departments, and some are direct to the DTIC. What's happening?
Chair, I can't raise my
Okay.
hand. Please note me as well.
Okay,
Am I
you'll
still
be number
audible,
4.
Chair?
Yes, we can hear you, Honorable Member Lang.
Thank you, Chair. The presentation it highlights multiple relief funds for floods, unrest, and energy crisis. So I just wanted to check how will these interventions, rather these once-off interventions, be integrated into a long-term resilience strategy for township enterprises facing recurring shocks. And also, I think we are also all aware that if we are in the retail shops, you'll hardly find products having shelf space, in particular products from by the business people from the townships. So meaning many township businesses, they still face barriers to market access, such as exclusive distribution and retail shelf space dominance. So I just want to check with the department what concrete steps are being taken to dismantle these structural barriers, especially in the retail and agro processing value chains. And also, given that the township MSMEs currently contribute about 20% to GDP compared to 40% in other emerging economies, then what will be specific interventions that are being prioritized to close this gap, and how will their effectiveness be measured? And the last one for now, Chair, the IDC and NEF, the IDC, NEF, and the DTIC report, and the DTIC report significant disinvestments into township economies. So what mechanisms are in place to monitor whether these funds result in sustainable enterprises and not short-term job creation only? Thank you very much, Chair. I will pause there for now.
Do I go next, Chair?
I think the person who's number 2 can come in.
Yeah, that's me, Mr. Chance here. So thanks to Mr. Clarkson and Mr. Delwer for the presentations. Yeah, a few questions from my side. First of all, on the quantification of the informal economy or the township economy, and the definitions are quite important here because they're not. There isn't necessarily a total correlation between the two. But I was interested to see Mr. Claessen's presentation. His source, as I recall, was the University of Johannesburg 2020, saying that it was a 20% contribution by this formal economy, and it does seem. Sorry, by SMMEs, my apologies. And this contrasts quite significantly with the presentation made by the Deputy Minister of Finance, Asor Sarupan, a couple of days ago at the SMME financing conference, which was hosted by the G20 stream, where the figures seem to be quite significantly higher. And I would just like to ask Mr. Claessen, in fact, I see the Deputy DG is on this meeting call as well. What work is being done to actually get to the bottom? Because there seems to be a lot of disagreement amongst different agencies, Stats SA, Treasury, the quarterly labour survey, as to what size of this economy actually is. And there was a big controversy when the CEO of Capitec, Jerry Faree, said that he thinks that the informal economy is much bigger than we think, and the number of unemployed people is much lower than we think. And this really creates a problem, because if we don't know what we're dealing with, it's difficult to know how our interventions are impacting in terms of growth, economic growth, job creation, and so on. So I'd like to just flag that as an issue that has to be addressed, and whether the department is addressing it. Then, in terms of industry supported, there seems to be quite a glaring omission of a number of important sectors. So for example, tourism, ICT, construction, transport, business services, renewable energy. So the question for Mr. Claessen is, why are these sectors not included in the sectoral support that you elucidated, and what can be done to fill those gaps? Then there was quite a large amount of money allocated in the SPASA fund to non-financial support, but it wasn't specified as to what that non-financial support was. Could you please elaborate on what that non-financial support is, and how do you quantify it? How do you actually attach a RAND value to that? Then both presenters mentioned the Transformation Fund. We haven't seen a lot of information coming out of the department on the fund lately. I see Mr. Daimani is on this call. Perhaps he could also chip in here. The question is, to what extent will the Transformation Fund impact scale of the department's ability to fund businesses? And do you think that there is a problem with the lack of fundable businesses out there? So what is the difference between the number of applications received and the number of businesses actually funded? And then, of course, the old bugbear, which is impairments. Do you see there's a possible risk of an increase in the number of impairments? In other words, loans that are not repaid as a result of the significant increase in funding that we would see from the Transformation Fund. Then I come to Ms. Delwer's presentation, and one of the issues that is always raised is the creditworthiness of SMMEs. And I want to ask the department, and probably the DDG in particular, what led to Minister Tau's withdrawal of the government gazette that was issued by the department on the National Credit Act changes to the regulations, which was specifically aimed at improving access to credit for SMMEs. But soon after it was released, there was a howl of outrage from certain political parties, supposedly representing the youth and students in particular, who admittedly do have a real problem with their overdue accounts. But the fact is that the regulations of 2006 included universities as institutions that were providing credit information on students. So nothing changed there. So why did the department withdraw that gazette? And there was a huge outcry from the Banking Association, from BUSA, from business organizations that said that the objective of these regulation changes were to support small businesses accessing finance. And now this has been withdrawn. So the question is, why was it really withdrawn? And what will be done to bring it back to achieve its original objective, which was to support small business finance? Then the big question of duplication across spheres of government and between departments, which Ms. Delwa alluded to, and it's a real problem here because there seems to be a real issue between different departments also doing the same sort of thing in different ways. And there's multiple agencies. Obviously, the CEDFA, which is itself an amalgamation of CIFA and CEDA, you've got NEF, you've got the IDC, but they all seem to be dipping into the same pond. So is there some discussion underway as to how you can differentiate between the services that you offer to make it simpler for SMEs and businesses generally to know who to go to funding? Because if I were an SME, I would think it would be jolly difficult to know where do I actually go, because there's a plethora of funds, as Mr. Tambo said, Mr. Lunga said, sorry, which does present a certain amount of confusion. Then my final question relates to the industrial parks, the township industrial parks. I noticed that Ms. Delwa made no mention of the industrial parks. Although they do sit on the CEDFA balance sheet, and they're burning a big hole on your balance sheet at the moment, and they have done for many years. And I want to know what is being done between the different departments, DTIC and DSBD, to really get to the bottom of the malaise that exists in these parks. I know that tomorrow and Thursday there's going to be a stakeholders workshop, which is a good start. But that only really relates to the Gauteng parks, and in fact, even the Johannesburg parks at that. So the question is, what is being done to really resolve this problem of the running sore of deteriorating industrial parks in the townships that haven't really been properly revitalized? It's been on the agenda for many, many years, but nothing really has been done. And I'd like to know if there's a CEDFA representative on this call, if somebody can just try and address that question for me. That's all for now. Thank you.
I'm not sure whether I should come in, Chair.
You're on next on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, maybe as a springboard is to acknowledge the presentations by DSBD on programs and policy proposals, but also the township presentation. There were, in fact, stuff that we have noted on funding and finances, skills and development, infrastructure and market access, policy frameworks. But we do, however, from a radical and pro-poor policy stance, have highlighted DSBD's programs exposes contradictions and a lot of limitations, where we have noticed over bureaucratization of and elite capture, where most funding schemes demand CPIC registration, SARS compliance, UIF registration, and strong business plans, which excludes the poorest survivalist entrepreneurs, that those who need support, which are those actually that need support the most. And these layers of compliance and financial literacy requirements create a system skewed towards those already halfway formalized, leaving grassroots hustlers trapped in informality. But also we've noted that the top-down state-centric approach is also inadequate. I mean, while policies speak of integration into mainstream economy, they risk forcing township and rural businesses into frameworks that benefit corporate supply chains, not community reliance. That also industrial clusters and most importantly export-oriented models mirror neoliberal prescriptions rather than people-centered self-determined and economic development, which is a serious contradiction. But also, DSBD has admitted that support is fragmented, uncoordinated, and undermined by lawlessness, corruption, and poor service delivery. Without electricity, water, safety, and functioning local municipalities, all these programs will remain paper victories. And these are the limitations that we have highlighted. And we ought to have solutions into this problem, because it means we will develop policies and propose programs that will only end on paper but not be tangible into proper local economic development programs. In the spaza shops and food security crisis, I mean, the spaza shop fund is a response to foodborne illness outbreaks. Instead of building community food sovereignty and cooperative wholesaling, the department focuses on refurbishment and compliance training, which is a patchwork solution that don't necessarily address the monopoly of retail dominance and high price costs. I mean, the focus should have been on how we promote agro-processing and retail manufacturing, so that the township, in fact, the spaza shops are self-sustainable, they can produce their own food, so that we then kill the over-reliance on well-established retailers that are making millions of profits as we speak. So, but also the exclusionary grant loan blended finance, which is a model that burden township entrepreneurs with debt instead of creating a socialized community control financing model, and now which risks deepening the financial vulnerability rather than transforming ownership. So when it comes to women, youth, and persons with disabilities and veterans, of course, they are a priority group, but in practice, disbursements remain skewed towards better connected businesses. Now, this reproduces patronage networks and elite capture instead of building a real mass-based empowerment. So these programs, like the NIPUS, has been framed into graduating into formality. So as the ultimate, which is somehow positioned as the ultimate goal. But from our perspective, this enforces compliance with state and capitalist system instead of fostering community-owned solidarity, economies that will break dependency on monopolies and predatory finance. So, Chair, maybe we would propose that we want to see in the policy proposals, including the strategies and the programs, community-owned financial institutions, not just state-backed microfinance, but also radical land and infrastructure redistribution to anchor township and rural enterprises, but also foster food sovereignty and cooperative supply chains to break dependency on corporate retailers. And lastly, Chair, on this presentation, is that we want to see a people-driven planning, not top-down programs designed somewhere in Pretoria, not necessarily speaking to the realities of the people on the ground. So on the second presentation, Chair, on the township economy, put by the DTIC, IDCNF, and other entities. Yes, despite the decades of policies like your RDP, GEAR, ASKISA, and GPNDP, and ERRP, unemployment continues to, in fact, it's now at 33.2%, given the reports of quarter 2, 2025. So inequality is the highest globally, with a Gini coefficient of 0.68, and township rural economies remain marginalized. So manufacturing has shrunk from 22% of GDP to 12% today, now replaced by consumption-driven debt and fuel sectors. So these special initiatives of SCZs, industrial parks, IDs targeting township rural areas, so would want to see The IDC, NEF, and DTIC financing really focused on black industrialist funding, infrastructure revitalization, township partnership funds, energy, and flood unrest, which are properly presented as solutions. But it's like you are bringing a knife into a gunfight. But what we have identified as challenges in the presentation is that there's limited access to finance, markets, and infrastructure, poor security and weak governance, skill shortages and inadequate business development support, dominance of established monopolies in retail and supply chain. So our view is that all policies from RDP and these other ones that I've cited above are now the so-called Spatial Industrial Development Strategy. The storyline repeats different names, same failures. The focus remains on pulling people into capitalist mainstream instead of building independent and community-driven economies. The elite capture and exclusion continues. I mean, large sums like the Black Industrialist Fund benefit a small circle of well-connected firms, while genuine grassroots entrepreneurs are sidelined. I mean, the Spaza Shop Fund is a proof of over 1,700 applicants, yet 17 approvals. Compliance is very heavy, and that's shutting out real township traders. Now, we are completely opposed to debt instead over justice. I mean, support is designed as loans or blended finance, pushing township entrepreneurs deeper into debt, while corporate monopolies, Shoprite, Massmart, foreign-owned wholesalers keep control of supply chains. So this infrastructure illusion that government is boasting about of billions of industrial parks, yet many townships still lack basic needs like water, electricity, safe streets, and functional municipalities, which is a catalyst that assists and creates an enabling environment for any business to thrive. And if there are deficiencies and shortages and such, it makes business quite very difficult, and growth, including market access, to be very difficult. And without these essentials, industrial parks are just white elephants. And also, these monopolies are untouched. I mean, the Competition Commission scratched the surface, offering take-a-lot discounts or booking.com deals, while real giants remain untouched. I mean, resale chains, distribution cartels, and then speculators still dominate price and logistics and the market access. So townships, spazas, and farmers cannot compete on that terrain. So this tokenism of targeted groups of women, youth, people with disabilities, and veterans are paraded as beneficiaries in presentations, but in reality, approvals are painfully slow, selective, and tied up in bureaucracy, excluding the majority. So this obsession with formalization, where the state is pushing the idea that success requires formalization, registration, and compliance, and debt, but township economies survive precisely because of their informal flexibility nature. Now, forcing formalization without addressing structural inequality only increases taxation and surveillance and dependency. So, Chair, these are the highlighted issues which are critical for development, but also in consideration in tailor-making whatever solution based on the circumstances and the demands of the society, the community, and the environment that you service. So this community-owned, so we recommend, as part of outside of the window dressing that is being presented, through township and rural transformation means that community-owned banks and cooperative, not state-owned loans with interest, that radical land distribution for small factories, farms, and retail spaces. We also strongly recommend cooperative food supply chains so that spaza shops and farmers are not slaves of corporate wholesalers. That people-driven planning, not policies designed in Pretoria and imposed on Soweto, Khayelitsha, and Umlazi. That breaking monopolies, not protecting them with cosmetic reforms. And just lastly, the people of this country do not want charity or empty promises. They want justice. They want power over their own economy. Until the state stops funding excuses and starts redistributing, township and rural economies will remain poor, and the elites will continuously grow, enjoy market share, and enjoy dividends and huge margins of profits, and continue to exploit surplus value and the toilers and those that continue to ply their trade as laborers. Their relations to production will remain labor, and they will not see any growth and development until the state decisively and politically make meaningful interventions. Thank you, Chair.
Mandibulise kuwe Chairperson, ndibulise kuzo zonke i-honorable members ezikhona nee-departments zombini. Othethayo ngu-Honorable Babalo Mathulelwa, deployed by the Economic Freedom Fighters in this parliament. Okokuqala nje manditsho nje Chairperson into yoba there's a lot of duplication in both of these departments, and into ezokumangaza ke Chairperson, even in their cabinet meetings, they are not raising this issue. They see it as their job opportunities. They've never stood for this department to be meshed, because we've been saying that there is no need for the Department of Small Business to stand alone. Must go back to this one of the DTIC because of the many failures that we have identified. But I will go kakhulu kule presentation ka DTIC. This presentation, it reflects incrementalism and a continued reliance on DFIs and loan-driven models that have failed to fundamentally alter South Africa's economic structure. So we call for a radical state-led program of township and rural industrialization that guarantees markets, that provides infrastructure, that redistributes the land and asset to Black communities. Anything less than that will continue to entrench dependency and inequality. The president and this parliament, there was a policy that was passed to a law that is of the Land Expropriation Act. I've never heard any of the two presentations on the side of the DTIC and also the Department of Small Business that in their presentation they are telling us the proper program of action or any attempts or in the issue of land redistribution or any land that is being given to our small businesses in townships and rural areas, including the groups that they've been talking about, of those people who are living with disability, women-owned businesses, and those that are led by the youth. There's nothing in both of these presentation, Chairperson. While the presentation acknowledges the structural challenges of unemployment, poverty, inequality, the proposal remain trapped with bureaucratic and market-friendly approaches that fail to radically transform the economic ownership in favor of the Black communities. Abantu abamnyama namhlanje basasokola, ayikho into abanayo at hand. So our concerns, also what I can propose, Chairperson, as per our opening in this meeting, that you were saying that maybe there will be another meeting that will be a joint, because this one is not a joint meeting, and it also confused everyone as before we were starting. I think there is a need of a joint committee that will include Home Affairs as well. Home Affairs must account. We were told by the Department of Small Business that 70% owned spaza shops were the only ones that were registered for getting that 500 million spaza shop funding. Only 5% of South African owned. I think that meeting that we were talking about, that must convene very closer after this meeting. I think you must also invite Home Affairs to give us an account. We've been calling Home Affairs, maybe If it's DTIC, maybe they will come, because they are just hiding behind this question. What happened? What are they doing in terms of their side? Because we were told that it's only Home Affairs who gave them powers and gave them this opportunity for them to be registered as business people in this township and rural economy, that we feel very strongly that there must be no compromise. I think there are spaces where even in other countries, in other even African countries, where you can't just go to their countries and only operate in an informal business sector, because it is clear in the constitution that with special skills, not even taking over what the people only have in their hand. So, Chairperson, the concerns are is the continued dependency on funding models. And it's very painful, Chairperson, because I heard here in DTIC as well, you have these intermediaries, of which this is a model that has got no right to even continue to survive in the sector of governments. What are the roles and responsibilities of departments if we also have other middlemen and all of those things? Why are people not given services directly from the departments? So the allied capture and the narrow beneficiation, the weak industrial policy linkages, exclusional access and digital divide, failure to address land, infrastructure and energy. Those are very concerning, Chairperson. The approach should be the direct state-led support. Establish publicly owned township and rural industrial hubs with rent-free premises. DTIC in a budget that is even maybe times 7, the one that is given to the small business. So I don't know what is difficult to build those industrial hubs. Shared machinery and guarantee state procurement contracts for township enterprises. There must be a market access over a loan. Replace loan-based support with state-guaranteed markets by mandating retailers, wholesalers, hospitals, schools, and municipalities to procure at least 50% of goods and services from township and rural producers. There must be a land and infrastructure in the form of immediately release dormant state and municipal land or building for cooperatives use by township enterprises with state-funded infrastructure and security upgrades. There must be an energy sovereignty. Roll out community-owned solar and microgrid energy projects in townships directly funded by the state instead of small DFIs linked grant schemes. Komhlabi yalingana, Chairperson, there is a heat of the sun engaba enough for producer energies. There is a wind as we speak. Kwabo KZN Eastern Cape, there's always in this season unomoya osisimanga, wind turbines. There are many ways of generating energy using natural resources that can be considered. Regulation of monopolies. Use the Competition Commission's powers, not only for conditional remedies, but the break up monopolies in retail, logistics, and digital platforms that block township producers from entering markets. That one, it must never be allowed, Chairperson. There are embassies in South Africa from different countries that are already developing through these proposals that we're giving here. You can actually also even invite the embassies or visit those embassies and learn how you can work together to get the skills. There must be skills and industrialization driver. Link township enterprises with industrialization programs in agro-processing, textile, furniture, chemicals, and energy manufacturing supported by free training and technical assistance. We've been calling for government to have its own companies. If ever the departments can have their entities, what is so difficult to have your own company that is going to provide these services? Remember, there is this company that produces Amataya in the Eastern Cape. We were told that is closing down and is going. And there is no alternative on that. And more than thousands and thousands of jobs that are going to be lost. This is what we always propose. And even these proposals that we're bringing on the table today, we are hoping that one day they will find a space in your hearts so that at least these departments can have an impact. Because without having our own state ways of production, this country or this nation doesn't have even a plot of tomatoes. We're buying everything from private sector. We can't even have our own spinach or smaller things. Because it doesn't mean that you are closing down all the farms, but to have the state-owned, it makes the country to be sustainable. And also the obligations and all the aims and objectives of the departments can be fulfilled by having all of these proposals, Chairperson, that I've mentioned. I think, thank you. Let me stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there another hand?
Chair, there's no further hands, Chair, that I can see, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. No, I thank you very much, colleagues. I think the main issue here, which we are trying to sort out, is the issue of coordination, but also streamlining these programs so that they are responsive to this important sector. As you know, that it plays a very important role in ensuring that we deal with issues of unemployment and so on and so on. So we are really struggling. And I think that we have a number of packages that are there, but the numbers and how we are responding generally, and how we are responding generally shows that there are weaknesses in the system of government, because people don't see DTIC and see small business, they see government. And you can imagine if we were to add provincial government and add LEDs, the kind of confusion that is out there. That is one area. The second area is that it is very clear that we are not short of resources to support this specific sector. Resources are there, but they are, because they are not properly coordinated, there are a lot of duplicates in the system, but we are not streamlining the kind of support that we must be giving to this targeted sector. I think, therefore, it will be important that we convene a joint committee, and there are proposals, including the issues of home affairs here that I'm hearing. But I think just for these economic development packages for the sector, I think is important, because I think generally, if you look into all the criteria, there is no one who is saying that is supporting everybody, including foreigners. So you must have a South African ID. So home affairs, whether they are here or not here, I think it's a secondary issue. The important thing is that we need to streamline this support intervention across these sectors to ensure that the informal sector is supported, the youth and the women, and then this department of small business has to lead in this regard and has to be supported by all other departments, including some of the initiatives that are happening at the level of social development and so on and so on. So I think we do need to find a way in which, Andre, we can coordinate everybody that have got to do with support for informal economy, rural and so on, including something in agriculture, so that we are able to move forward. But otherwise, I think that it's good that we can demonstrate as government that there has been some initiative, but it's not good enough because we are not properly coordinated, and resources are not spent in a manner that can give us the results that are desired. And we do need to think about the role of the provinces and the role of the LEDs, especially where we're giving support, and the role of other critical or strategic role players that must play their role. And I'm not sure, Andre, what we expected to recommend specifically, or it was just an information kind of presentation, or is there something specific we need to recommend? If you can just guide the meeting, then we will know what to do. Andre?
Chair, it was specifically for information purposes at this stage, Chair, given the fact that there should be a proposal by a committee coming forward that there should be a further engagement on it. There I can see then at that meeting we can then make formal proposals and draft a report in regard to this matters, Chair. But for today's purposes, it was purely for information so that we can path a way forward regarding this matters, Chair.
Okay. Can we recommend that our officials then they go and work on how this work can be coordinated across government? And then so that when we meet in the joint, we are much more coordinated and organized. And where there are duplicates, can they agree? Because ours is to, provide strategic direction, but not to implement. Can they agree how they deal with issues of duplicate of the programs? And then also, can they also agree who becomes the champion of this era, so that everyone who's got efforts and initiative without relinquishing their responsibilities, but make sure that you have people, there's a center where we know, all of us, if we want information on how we're supporting informal township and rural, where it's located in the main. If they can do that, so that in the next round when we meet, we then coordinate a proper joint, and then a decision is made, which decision must then be implemented. Is that correct? Is that a correct summary, members?
Okay, there's Mr. Chance that raised his hand, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chance.
Sorry, it actually comes back to another point. I don't want to interrupt your concluding remarks, Chair. I just want to reiterate a question I had earlier. But once you've finished, I'll ask the question.
No. I was finished because I just wanted to emphasize that the officials must go and engage, deal with duplicates, but streamline the work and agree who becomes the champion for this kind of work, and how to involve other layers of government to ensure that we can maximize the resources and the support, because they can learn from each other. But even when they do so, we are not asking for people to relinquish the work they are doing, but just someone who's going to have responsibility in that regard. You can ask a question, Mr. Chan, so that we can conclude.
Okay, it's really just a follow-up, Chair. I'd like to get an answer from the Deputy DG on the withdrawal of the Gazette on the credit issue. Please, could I get an answer on that question?
Yeah, was it part of this presentation?
Yes, it was. No, it was. The whole access to credit. Half the presentation was about access to finance for SMEs. And the point is that the Government Gazette was issued specifically to address that problem. Now it's been withdrawn, and I want to know why. And when is it going to be brought back?
Yeah, but Mr. Chance, really, I don't think that's fair. We must wait for the minister, because we had written to him him come back to us and indicate to us. We can't put officials on spotlight because it's a minister that withdrew. It's not. Sorry, Mr. Chance.
I just wanted to know. I want to know from the department if the minister consulted the department before he withdrew that gazette.
No, but that's interference. Let's ask that question to the minister himself. It's him who withdrew, who went public. I shared with you the statement in the group. So let's ask the minister.
Yes, I saw it.
Yeah, why did he withdraw? Asking officials really, you'll end up having officials being suspended for answering things they don't know. It's not right. Let's not do that.
Well, that's for up to them to decide. But I'll ask the minister the question.
No. I think I have to come in as a chairperson to protect the officials because they didn't withdraw. If it was them, if it was the department, we're going to ask you, you're going to be correct. But it is a minister that withdrew. So when he comes in any, I will give you even whatever the topic. When the day is there, we must ask him, why did you withdraw? So he owes us that explanation because we have been commented. You've commented, I've commented with regard to so it will be unfair to ask people who did not withdraw these regulations. I think let's not go that route. That's fine. Okay. Andre, is that a correct way forward? Can we just hear the DDGs who are presenting, both of them, so that we can conclude?
Correction, also they should submit all the outstanding responses in writing to us, Chair, but Mr. Langa also raised his hands, Chair.
DDGs, is there anything you want to comment on based on what the members of parliament were saying? And then how we want to conclude.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we're grateful for your guidance on how we should then take the matter forward. I am not sure whether there should be responses to specific questions or whether your guidance was also saying that in the presentation that will be done to the joint sitting that of the different portfolio committees, that we should ensure that the presentation addresses the issues as they were raised today. I think the one point that we can make is that indeed the township economy is a critical part of our economy, and agree with Honorable Chance that the informal economy and the township economy are not the same thing, and we definitely not treating them as the same thing. Agree also with Honorable Langa and the chair himself and Honorable Matulwa and Jingila, that much as there may be many actors in as far as the economy, the informal economy is concerned, all of us can agree that we haven't done enough to support and grow the sector. So the issue is not about necessarily taking out institutions, but as you were saying, Chair, improving coordination amongst all of us so that our actions are much more targeted, and that through that coordination, we overcome the current weaknesses that at times entrepreneurs and various other people have to deal with in terms of our delivery mechanisms. We also agree with the committee members that have raised the fact that some of our interventions seem to respond primarily to the fact that there are municipalities that do not work, and they're not providing the relevant type of infrastructure that allows enterprises to thrive at a reasonable cost. And that is true, that the reason we have industrial parks is that we're creating centers of concentration of services that allows for us to overcome that weakness, because we can't say, particularly as Department of Small Business and also the DTIC, that we have to wait until all of the municipalities are functional for economic development to thrive. In actual fact, it could be that when economic development thrives, it will force the municipalities to then improve their services. So that is why you would see what looks like a myriad of activities. All of those are directed at resolving particular issues that enterprises are facing, and particularly for small enterprises, 3 things that are needed. You need an idea, you need finance, you need a market. And we're intervening at all those 3 levels to try and ensure that we are supporting these enterprises as far as it's possible. And also, I think, agree with Honorable Matulelo that some of these delivery mechanisms will always have to be refined as we work more and more intensely with an increasing number of entrepreneurs in various localities and presented with different situations. For us, the interest is that those enterprises must thrive, the jobs must be created, and also the inequality that members also highlighted has to be addressed. So with that, Chair, our commitment is that, of course, guided by the Department of Small Business, who lead on the policy aspects of this as they had been presented, we would then also support that presentation for the future meeting as the Chair had indicated. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much. We appreciate all the presentations, and we also thank members of the Joint Committee. I know that, Andre, we still have an item for DTIC, so we can allow the members of small business to leave, as well as the officials who are not needed for the next item, because our own internal processes in the agenda there. If you can just remind us there. Andre?
Chair, thank you, Chair. Chair, we now proceed, if that's proceed with the consideration of our strategic plan, Chair. Remember, 2 weeks ago, we met as a committee, and the committee made some inputs and proposals for Secretariat to implement, Chair. We are now, and we are required to submit a strategic plan and a performance plan and a budget to the House Chairperson by Friday, this coming Friday. So Margot will lead that discussion, Chair, and just highlight where the inputs was that the members made and where the members are okay with the inputs, and committee then have to adopt the strategic plan so that we can submit it to the House Chairperson, Chair. Thanks.
No, thank you very much to all the other members. You'll tell us once they are all gone, those who must not be here, and then the members will conclude. Thank you. Let's give it another 3 minutes.
No problem, Chair.
Chair.
Chair, Mr. Langa, Chair.
Yes, Member Langa.
Yes, Chair. I'm just raising a concern now because you've already released the other department, but I had my hand up whilst you were concluding, just before Mr. Chance came in. However, it's... Sorry?
Apologies, Mr. Langa.
Okay. No, it's fine. I think I will take it up I'll come back with it on the next joint meeting. Thank you.
Okay, my apologies. I didn't see the hand. Normally, Andre helped me. I didn't see it. I apologize.
Margot? Chair, I think it would appear that mostly our members are on the platform, Chair. Chair, on your guidance, shall we proceed, Chair, or shall we still wait a couple of minutes?
I don't know what happened. I don't know how the chair got cut. So you were suggesting we do what, Andre?
Chair, what we remember, we met last time to look at, and members were giving guidelines on what needs to be added. So what we've done, so Margot will just take members through the additions to the strategic plan that was presented 2 weeks ago. And then at the end of that process, members must adopt that strategic plan with the APP and a draft program for the 3rd and 4th quarter up till the end of the financial year, as was requested by the House Chairperson for committees to do. So if through you, Chair, if we can proceed, Margaret, just highlight those things in yellow that was added to the document, if that would be in order, Chair.
Yes, let's proceed.
Good afternoon, members. So initially we sent the draft strategic plan to everyone, and then we presented on issues in the last meeting, with members adding additional matters. So this is just a culmination of that process, with the additions we've made to the actual draft document. So section 7 was added. This just identifies on the basis on which we've created our strategic plan. I don't know if members want to have me go through it or whether we can accept that part. Dr. Gigaba. Can I just?
I think we should, because we have discussed it. And we are now looking at the additions. I think we should go issue by issue, confirm it, and move on. We're not starting a new debate.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So for the purpose of the section is to provide the committee priorities and strategic objectives for the 7th Parliament. The strategic objectives were developed based on Parliament's 5 outcomes identified for the period, as well as the mandate of Parliament and the role of the committee in contributing towards these outcomes. The committee also considered the national priorities set out in the medium-term development plan as it relates to the role of the DTIC group, as well as the strategic priorities identified in the strategic plans of the DTIC and its entities, and outstanding issues identified in the committee's legacy report for the 6th Parliament. So this seeks to strengthen its legislative and oversight functions while deepening public participation in relation to the work of the committee. The committee also seeks to address cross-cutting constraints facing the productive sectors of the economy and the achievement of an inclusive economy by engaging the relevant portfolio committees in this regard.
I take that to be straightforward, members. You will indicate by a show of hands if you want to say something, but in the absence of hands, I think this is agreed to proceed.
Okay, so the committee priorities were drawn from the presentation as well as additions made by members. In terms of industrial and spatial development, there was a addition in terms of SEZs to focus on governance and the alignment of business cases with national priorities and global trends. I believe it was yourself, Dr. Gigaba, and Mr. Chance who raised those 2 matters. And then the other issue was to engage relevant government departments or public institutions, as well as our relevant portfolio committees to address interlinkages that should support industrial and spatial development.
I'm Abby.
I don't see hands. I think we are happy. We can proceed.
In terms of investment, trade and exports, there was the chair had raised that we should just emphasize the efforts to negotiate tariffs between South Africa and the US, including South Africa's response to support affected exporters.
Okay, let's proceed.
Okay. In terms of transformation and competition, there was an addition in terms of, so I've just added in relation to the monitoring of the levels of concentration in the economy and across sectors, as well as interventions to remove barriers of entry and constraints faced by new entrants to participate in these sectors.
Okay, let's proceed.
Was nothing in terms of regulation. I think it was the focus on the gambling regulatory framework. So there was a focus on online gambling, advertising, gambling addiction, and fiscal measures.
Just one issue, Margo, on the previous paragraph. Is it barriers of entry or barriers to entry?
Barriers to entry.
Yes. Okay, it's a minor.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so it was mainly these matters that I've just added based on comments from the floor.
Chair, if I may just make a comment here, please.
Yes.
I think it actually appears under, it should appear under regulation. And
you are breaking, Mr. Chan.
Sorry, I'm parliamentary.
It's not clear, Mr. Chance.
Okay.
Your connectivity, Mr. Chance, we can't hear you.
Yeah. We're struggling with Mr. Chance. Okay, I see he's been kicked out. Well, he's probably trying to reconnect.
Okay. He's trying to come back in.
I'm back now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I've just connected on my phone. If I could just carry on, if I may. The issue around gambling is that the principal acts are going to need to be amended. So it's not just regulation, it's legislation. If we could just add gambling to legislation, but include it in regulation, please.
So, Mr. Trump, I'm not sure if this covers you, because I've said in terms of the regulation of gambling, overseeing the policy review to address
No, I see that.
gaps.
I see that, but underneath you'll see under legislation. I'm only saying this because I have discussed this with the chair, and there is a distinct possibility that the committee will be asked to process some legislation around the National Gambling Act. And that'll be legislation. It won't just be regulation.
Okay. Okay, because I think when we say regulations in the broader term, which would include the legislative framework.
All right.
Yeah.
Just so long as there's no misunderstanding in the committee that this is something which may come down the line.
Okay. Because in legislation, we've now said processing legislation as and when tabled by the executive or by members of
Yeah.
parliament, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So that would include anything,
That would include the
including
gambling. Yeah, no, I'm happy
Yes.
with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's just been an addition in terms of processing international agreements tabled by the executive in terms of section 2312 of the Constitution for recommendation for approval, for ratification or accession by the National Assembly, which wasn't captured previously.
That should be fine.
Then in terms of our strategic objectives, I have changed the targets for our oversight over governance and performance from initially it was 27 we did the previous year. This year we'll be able to do 19. So we've factored in all of the entities for the rest of the year. And then from next year on, we'll endeavor to see them twice a year.
Okay.
And then we've set our targets for the state capture recommendations, which is mainly in relation to the CIPC and the implementation of the company's second amendment bill. So the delinquency, declaring directors delinquent at that time span for the next 2 years, for this financial year and the next one. And then for the NLC's maladministration, we've now targeted 1 meeting a year for the next 3 years. And then we've just set out potential target dates for a number of engagements with the DTIC on industrial policy and master plans, as well as industrial financing to at least touch on it on a quarterly basis, as well as on our SEZs and industrial parks. We envision that we'll probably take the approach of inviting provinces so one province to deal with all of the SEZs and industrial parks at a time, and or having the DTIC just giving us an overview of the general situation at that stage. And then we've scheduled about 2 meetings on transformation fund and other economic transformation issues for the year. So twice a year, as well as for our trade issues with a focus on the AFCFTA and the United States to have biannual meetings. And then in terms of site visits, where we have indicated possible study tours, then we'll only have 1 site visit for the year. So that's where the 1-2-1-2, because there's a potential study tour in this financial year as well as the current financial year.
Okay.
And then with the anticipation that we should be having more and more legislation as the years go on, we've limited the stakeholder engagements in terms of priority areas to 2 per annum. But obviously, if the legislation is not being tabled, we can then schedule more at that stage. So similarly for the joint committees, we've focused on 2 oversight priorities per annum. However, if the schedule permits, then we can obviously increase that. So in terms of statutory appointments, we've made it 100% across the years based on, so if there is a legislative mandated process that needs to occur, we will then do so 100% when we receive them. So in terms of lawmaking, the intention is to have 1 meeting per annum to just get an update, a detailed update of what the implementation status is of our outstanding or new legislation, and then to identify and assess legislation or aspects of legislation to be reviewed by our committee. one a year. So I've changed this target, this indicator, from number of piece of legislation process, because that's outside of our control. So what we can do is, so I've changed the percentage of tabled legislation process. So for instance, we've been referred the liquor amendment bill now, so we would then have a process around that as they are rising.
All right.
Then, okay, so I think the chair, we have seen this. I've just made, we've refined our public participation area to areas that are within our control. So we've now said media statements on legislation and matters of public interest determined by the committee. So when the committee is of the view that something needs to be communicated, then you'll do so. So hence the 100% with those ones. And then to have an annual accountability and oversight report published. So one per year. And then I think that's it. And then we've just done the budget based on an estimation of activities that we should be participating in. Dr. Gigaba, can I switch to the annual performance plan?
Yes, please.
So in terms of the annual performance plan, all the information is the same except for our strategic objective section. So I'm going to go straight to that. Button. So we've taken all the strategic objectives and we've just done a quarter by quarter targets for those. So I think the ones that are important, so this is just the numbers are derived based on the proposed program that you will be seeing shortly, as well as on the activities you've already done for the first half of the year. I think the only thing that we just need to check with the committee was when it intends to publish its oversight, accountability and report. Where's that now? Right at the end. Because we have obviously adopted one, but we haven't published it yet. So just to get an indication of which quarter we intend to do this, because it would be for the previous financial year's work that we've done.
You were saying what should we should indicate when do we want the first accountability and oversight report to be done?
So it's been developed. It's not been published though.
Okay.
And when we say published, we want it in the ATC, because and giving a media statement to the public. Yeah, if that would be in order.
Certainly. When do we anticipate its
Yeah, because I think in future we would draft it from the 1st of April to cover work till the end of March. So then we'd probably be drafting and adopting in future in quarter one, with the intention of then possibly publishing it by either Q1 or Q2.
Okay. In terms of dates, there is no estimation.
Not at this stage. But maybe, I don't know if it's a matter we can just discuss with the chair offline.
It will either be either we decide that we will publish such a report at the conclusion, as Mark indicated, of the financial year, either we adopt it in the Q1 and then publish in Q2, or both in Q1. So is that decision that needs to be taken? When do we publish that, if it needs to be published also? Thanks.
Okay.
But I think maybe, Andre, is this a matter we can discuss with the chair offline?
I think it should be, it's just a purely administrative matter.
Okay. Because that would be basically cover the two documents. Dr. Gigaba, do you want me to go through the third and fourth, or Andre, procedurally, do we need to adopt this first and then do the third and fourth quarter program?
Because we need to go through the third and fourth quarter report, because that program informs this, what we're actually looking at. So we need to look at that.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Doctor, we will take you through the third and fourth quarter program, and based on even the discussion that we had today, we need to look at the date for a future joint meeting between the DB, Department of Small Business Development. So Margo, will you take, or should I take members through?
You may do so.
Okay. Chair, we have developed a program as was requested by the House Chairperson for the third and fourth quarter. And the third quarter starts on the 7th of October. We are required to deal with our annual report and its first quarter financial and non-financial performance. On the 7th of October, we schedule that meeting. We will also get a report from the Auditor General's Office on the audit outcomes of the DTIC and its entity for the past financial year. Then we also will need to receive a briefing by DTIC on the agreement on the establishment of the African Export-Import Bank, which is quite important, and hence urgent, hence we schedule it for the 7th of October. Then, Chair, one of our joint meetings with other committees, we will be engaging with the PC on transport. I think we had engagement beginning of this year, of this financial year, I think 4th of between April, with PC on transport. There's a follow-up engagement to that as part of the requirements to engage with other committees. Then, Chair, on the 15th of October, we'll get a briefing by DTIC on its annual industrial financing report. And we will also then look at the first draft of the BRR report that we require to consider during that period. And then on the 17th of October, we will formally consider the report, and we will start with the shortlisting. If all things go as it planned, we will start shortlisting for position of the NLC board chairperson. Once we have done that, Chair, that list will be published as required. If the members decide it will 10 members that we shortlist, or whatever member the committee determine, that the names of those individuals will be published for public comment, and then before the committee will proceeding with the interviews. Then on the 21st of October, Chair, as part of our engagements on the financial sector transformation, we will have a meeting with the Standing Committee on Finance regarding engagement on the financial sector transformation charter over 2 days, Chair, and that will be most likely be in person. And that will conclude our engagement with Standing Committee on Finance on the matter, Chair. Then we we are scheduled to have an oversight visit, and we have an oversight visit planned for with the Western Cape, Chair. Margot, do you want to just provide some details to that, more details to that, Chair? Margot, through you, Chair.
Yes, Margot.
So the focus of the Western Cape visit would be on the two SEZs, Atlantis and on Saldanha. And then we're factoring in a third day to start looking at the aerospace industry. We're looking at possibly, because there's a clustering of the industry in the Western Cape around Somerset West and Stellenbosch, to then spend a day with them and also then engage with SANSA and the DTIC on the national space policy, as well as any issues or challenges that's being experienced by the areas. It's one of the sectors that have been identified as a priority new sector to be focused on.
Chair, at the conclusion of that oversight visit, we will start with our interviews on the 4th with the NLC, for the decision of NLC board chairperson, Chair. We schedule the 5th for deliberations and to make recommendations. And then Friday, we will formally consider that report that will be then submitted to the House for its consideration. Then on the 11th November, we will get a briefing by the department on the butterfly strategy, status of trade relations, ongoing trade negotiation, and implementing the progress in implementing existing trade agreements. We will also request an update on the tariff negotiation between South Africa and the USA, including South Africa's response to the imposition of additional tariffs by the US. Then on the 12th of November, Chair, we'll get a briefing by the IDC on the annual report, as well as the NEF. Then on the 16th, as part of the oversight over the master plans, we will have a briefing by the DTIC on the automotive master plan. That will be followed by engagement with stakeholders on the implementation of the auto master plan, similar to what we had on the steel industry. Then, Chair, we have received a private members bill, which was published which was referred to the Portfolio Committee for consideration. And we've scheduled that engagement with Ms. Nkuna on the liquor amendment bill. And we will also receive an input from the DTIC on that proposal. Thereafter, the committee will have to determine its motion of desirability, whether to proceed with it or how they will deal with that matter. But we will guide the committee through that process on what is required from the committee. But initially we must, in terms of the rules, allow Ms. Nkuna to present to the committee her bill, and also for the department to respond to that proposal. Thereafter, the committee will deliberate and make a decision on whether to proceed or on the desirability of the bill. Let me not use that language. Chair, on the 25th, we, as you will know that, we scheduled engagements with African arms industry contribution to economic growth, technology and development, and job creation. And that will be a joint meeting with the Joint Committee on Defense and PC on Science, Technology and Innovation, scheduled for the 25th as part of joint meetings of matters of economic growth. Then 26th of November, Chair, we will get the annual report of the National Gambling Board as well as the National Lotteries Commission. Then on the 2nd December, Chair, we will have the SAP's annual report as well as the NLC annual report. And then on the 3rd of December, we'll get a briefing by DTIC on progress in implementing legislation. Then is a constituency period, Chair. If we go down, Margot, it's a proposal that the study tour takes place on the 23rd of January to the 1st of February. The countries has not been determined. Will be part of the ongoing process going forward. Then on the 10th of February, we will do a follow-up on our oversight visit to KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. Then we have scheduled 18th February capacity building for members that will be determined by the issues at hand at the time and through the input from members. Then on the 24th of February, we will be briefed by DTIC and relevant entities on progress in implementing the transformation fund. Then on Wednesday 25th, we look at the NCC's first, second, and third quarter financial and non-financial performance, as well as the NCR's first, second quarter financial performance. Then on the 3rd of March, we'll be briefed by DTIC on its second and third quarter financial and non-financial performance for the 25-26 financial year. And on the 4th of March, go down, Mongo, we'll do the same with the DTIC and the company's tribunal. That will follow by on the 10th, the TRP as well as the NCT, similar process. And then 11th of March, we will be briefed by the BBBE, Competition Commission, and the Competition Tribunal on the first, third, second, and third quarter financial and non-financial performance for the current financial year. Then on the 17th of March, we will have the follow-up engagement stakeholders on the steel and metal fabrication master plan. Then the 18th will be SANAS, NAMISA. And then also 24th of March, we will get the status report from the SIU on SAPS, from the SIU, SAPS and NPA on the NLC on allegations of corruptions and maladministration. And the 25th of March, we'll get briefed by the ECIC, ITAC on their first and second and third quarter thingy. Chair, based on the discussion that we just had with between the Department of Small Business Development, we will need to find a date in this fourth quarter for that joint meeting with small business as the committee agreed to at the meeting. So we need to find a meeting on a Tuesday because they normally, or on a Wednesday, and we will probably be engaging with our sister committee, but we will have to find a date in the fourth quarter based on the decision committee for such a meeting to take place, Chair. So either we can do it on Friday the 27th of March as an alternative date. Then would be that all members will be able to attend such a meeting, seeing that there are members being sharing other committees on Tuesdays and on Wednesdays. So we'll need to find a date, Chair, on in the fourth quarter for such engagement. May I make a proposal, Chair, that maybe Friday, March the 19th, we have such a joint meeting, Chair?
I usually have committee meetings of the standing committee.
Oh, joint, yes. So we'll have to be on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday, Chair. The standing committee, the portfolio committee on small business normally meet on a Wednesday, so we can maybe engage with them to on a Wednesday. We have to find a Wednesday that we will need to have such a meeting. Marvin? Please speak down.
Let's try find the date. Otherwise, if we have to settle for the 19th for the Friday, then my apology.
Yes,
yeah, I will have to apologize. But if the majority of the members of the committee are available, then we can't stop them just because one member is not available.
Chair, may I propose, Chair, that on the 25th of March, we maybe schedule that meeting, and we can always schedule the EIC's engagement the following quarter, Chair, and the ITAC. We can maybe shift that to the following quarter, Chair.
Okay.
And have the joint meeting with because I think it's a quite important meeting that should take place going forward.
Of course, sure. I think I appreciate that accommodation.
Chair, so that is the program that we developed, Chair, in relation to the request from the House Chairperson, and also that informs our strategic plan and specifically the annual performance plan in terms of the targets that we should set out. Hence, we had to look at the program so that we can adopt all three documents that we have before us, Chair, and will be guided by you, Chair, and how we proceed with that. So we have three documents before us now, Chair. Is the strategic plan, the annual performance plan, and the proposed program for the third and fourth quarter. Members must be cognizant that the program is a living document. It may change given the parliamentary program. So, but what we currently have is what we is based on the information before us. But as members all know, parliamentary program do impact, changes to the parliamentary program do impact on committee's program going forward. But that's what we have at the moment, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, herewith are the 3 documents before you. Can we have a mover for adoption? Bearing in mind that the strat plan and the APP have been discussed before. So. Can we have...
Ms. Mosikatsi, Chair?
Yes. Honorable Mosikatsi.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of the documents, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Mosikatsi moves for the adoption of the program. Do we have a second of the documents? Do we have a seconder?
I'll second them, Chair.
Mr. Chance, Chair?
Yes, thank you. Honorable Chance seconds. Then the documents are adopted. Was that the final item on our agenda?
That concludes the business that we have before the committee today, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable members, see you again at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Honorable Gigaba, for holding on there. For the technology was undermining me.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you.
Chair, that you were going to show up at the end.
No, I was always here, but it was kicking me in and out. You really intervened. Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Sure.
Sure.
Recording stopped.